Welcome into the Wiltfong Whiparound with Steve Wiltfong. We are live. Today is Thursday, November 13th, and I'm your host, Josh Newberg. We got week 12 on deck. 3 weeks left in the season, 3 weeks until the early signing period, which begins on December 3rd. So we're entering a pivotal stretch, and these final visits actually mean something because signing day is 4 days after the season ends. There's no in-home visits, so these visits to campus could be the last time recruits and coaches meet face-to-face. So a lot of new developments. We're going to tackle it all today on the Wiltfong Whiparound. Excited to talk to my guy, Steve. He's been on the phone all morning. We were actually supposed to start about 45 minutes ago, but he's got phone calls to make. So it's just that time of year. We're excited to be here. But before we get going, guys, do me a favor. Hit subscribe to the Rivals Recruits channel. This is the best recruiting channel on all of YouTube. All right. Also, join Rivals today. Get 1 year full access to The Athletic, plus all the On3 national and fan site content as well. Great time to jump on board. I'll put the link in the description of this video. All right, let's start in Athens. 5 stars are flocking to Georgia this weekend for the SEC matchup against Texas. We've been talking about this one all offseason long in terms of big visits. Now, 5-star quarterback Jared Curtis is on campus. Steve, the last time we talked about Curtis on the show, he was making a visit to Vanderbilt. Now, the dust has kind of settled on that trip. What are you hearing? Any concern for Georgia fans with Jared Curtis's commitment?
Well, Jared Curtis has been adamant that he's 100% to Georgia. So is his camp and family about where things stands with the Bulldogs. Obviously, he took 3 visits to Vanderbilt and has had running dialogue with the Commodore staff, but that is not in a place where I have any concern with him signing with Georgia at this point in the process.
All right, yeah, we have Rusty Mansell on the channel. He came to Nashville this week to talk and watch Jared Curtis, kind of saying the same thing. So I think with this visit to Athens, just 3 weeks out from signing day, I think Georgia fans, if they were concerned at all about Vanderbilt, can kind of put those concerns to bed at this point. All right, let's move on. And this weekend in Georgia, an absolutely loaded list of 2027s on campus. And Georgia's ready to make a push towards that 2027 number 1 recruiting class this weekend. Kaman Spell, the number 1 running back in America, David DJ Jacobs, Kennedy Brown. I mean, the list is loaded, Steve. Who is the headliner? Who are the headliners this weekend in Athens?
Well, Georgia's finished with a top 3 recruiting class in every cycle of the Kirby Smart era. Obviously has finished atop those standings several times. Weekends like this, games like this, performances that Georgia typically has on this kind of stage, the consistency. This is why year in and year out they attract the best players in the country. And you name some of them. Kaman Spell, number 1 running back in the land per Rivals, going to take his visit to Georgia this weekend as the Bulldogs aim to make a move on Notre Dame, among others. He had a great trip to Miami last weekend. Ohio State's at the forefront of this recruitment. Oregon, Nebraska, Michigan, a few others. David DJ Jacobs, 5-star edge, legacy recruit, back on campus. Georgia's always been the perceived favorite, but Texas A&M, Miami, Notre Dame, some of the schools looking to change that. So always good for Kirby Smart and company to get David DJ Jacobs back on campus. 5-star offensive tackle Kennedy Brown is expected from the Lone Star State. Alabama's picking up steam in that recruitment. The Aggies, Tennessee, some of the others he's high on. Nebraska. Number 1 quarterback per the Rivals industry in 2027, Elijah Haven, going to visit Georgia this weekend. So is the number 6 passer, Colton Nussmeier. Now, this Colton Nussmeier recruitment might be wide open now. LSU was where he had been predicted, but obviously a lot of change in Baton Rouge from just really the coaching staff and maybe even the experience that the family is having at LSU. Colton Nussmeier has also always been high on Alabama, Florida, and Georgia. Georgia is a sneaky program to watch in the Colton Nussmeier sweepstakes moving forward, in my opinion. Georgia's never going to stop recruiting. Texas A&M safety commit, number 1 safety in the Rivals 300 rankings. Camarui Dorsey from in-state, and then Cooper Whitten, number 1 linebacker in the country. Georgia's been working to get him on campus a bunch. Tennessee, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, some of the favorites there for him. One of the biggest targets on campus from a perspective standpoint and just literal standpoint, offensive tackle Joshua Sam Appel. Yeah. He's been to Georgia a bunch. Miami just had him on campus. Tennessee's pushing hard. South Carolina. He is one of the most coveted players at the position in SEC country, and Georgia would like to get him in the fold sooner rather than later.
All right. So looking at David DJ Jacobs, how important of a recruitment is this? Just looking at some of the top players in the state recently, LaDamian Guyton, Tyler Atkinson, Justice Terry, they've all been poached by programs in the state of Texas. David DJ Jacobs, we almost read his name every week when it comes to these big games. He's been attending more big games than College Game Day has this season. So where does Georgia stand with him, and how important is it that they keep him in state?
Well, the difference between David DJ Jacobs and those other guys is that his parents and father didn't play football in Athens between the hedges for the University of Georgia. Now, this is his journey. His younger brother Dawson is also seeing his recruiting stock rise. They're going through their own process. That's why they're taking these visits, building relationships, looking for what's right for them. Miami's a program that has done a really good job in that recruitment of building a good relationship. The connection with Mark Richt to that family and the Hurricanes has helped the U be a player for him. Texas A&M is prioritizing him and showing him a very advantageous situation to come play for a program that's very much on the rise, competing for titles. He is a fit at Notre Dame. That is a school and coaching staff that he has really vibed and gelled with. They're one to watch, but Georgia's always been considered one that you know is going to be there at the end. And while he's taking all these visits to other programs, you want to get him back and remind him what home looks like and remind him about the school he grew up rooting for and the family played for and remind him, look, we still are the most consistent program in college football right now. Now, Ohio State would like to argue with Georgia about that, but Georgia's certainly in that conversation, if not still leading the charge in that debate.
All right. Anybody, and I just say this because it's a huge game, going to be a lot of players on campus, a lot of emotion involved. Anybody on commit watch this weekend from the 2027 class?
Well, in-state running back Jakevian Parker is a guy that I have my eye on. I have him predicted to Georgia ahead of a weekend commitment date, so he is certainly one to watch for Georgia. But the big fish out there for the Bulldogs this weekend isn't in 2027, Josh. He's in 2028. He's the number one rated overall recruit per the Rivals Industry. Jaden Wade, a California native playing at IMG Academy. He's announcing his commitment on Sunday. He's at Georgia this weekend. I like the way it's trending for Georgia, but let's have a good visit. Let's continue to feel that love because Ohio State and Texas are some of the other programs that have given Jaden Wade a lot to think about. But Georgia trending for the number one ranked quarterback, number one ranked overall player in 2028 per the Rivals Industry in Jaden Wade.
Let's talk Ohio State recruiting because right now on the recruiting trail, nobody is hotter than the Buckeyes, and they could be adding more. Steve, this weekend, highly coveted four-star edge Drake Quinn returns to Columbus. Now, I know you got your pick on Texas, but how could this weekend – could Ohio State come out with the momentum, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Well, we're not counting Ohio State out for anybody. Similar to what we said about Drake Quinn when he visited for the Texas game earlier in the fall. If the Buckeyes have you on campus, if they're able to showcase to you their product, their locker room, their coaching staff, their pedigree, the opportunities in Columbus, they check a whole hell of a lot of boxes. They're the number one team in the country. They look like they're trending towards defending that national championship this year. And Drake Quinn is a prospect coveted just as much for his playability as the intangibles he brings. And so Ohio State getting him back for a second home game and official visit shows how serious he is about the Big Ten powerhouse. Now, Texas getting a visit, Miami is shooting its shot, Georgia Tech is in the game, and then obviously Tennessee. But Ohio State in the picture for Drake Quinn. They got a couple other visitors on campus this weekend. And the way that they're recruiting, the clip that they're at, how can you count them out for any of these dudes?
Speaking of counting them out, flip targets on campus, and it looks like Ohio State. This is just kind of where things are in college football at the end of the season, but it looks like they're going to be able to take advantage of some weaker programs. Linebacker Braxton Rembert is on campus. Wake Forest commitment. Seems like Ohio State could nab him if they want. Cornerback C.J. Bronow committed to UF. They don't have a coach, so Ohio State brings in two recruits that are at programs in flux right now. What do you think?
Well, I talked to CJ Brownell earlier this week, and he talked about his relationship with Coach Walton and the culture that they have up at Ohio State. He talked about the development, the track record there, and he said he's excited to see everything. It's his first time on campus. He's also been committed to Nebraska. Ohio State is certainly a program to keep an eye on for him coming out of this visit. And then Braxton Rembert, same high school as Caleb Downs down there in the Peach State. He's talked about Ohio State being a place where it is eat or be eaten, and they have dogs all over the place. He talked about James Laurinaitis and his resume and track record, and he's coming up to Ohio State this weekend. If the Buckeyes are on the gas there, you figure they ultimately add him to the class. He's 6'5", Josh, 200 pounds, a lot of traits as a second-level defender, having a terrific senior season for one of the Peach State's best programs.
So when it comes to these two in particular on campus, is it just a matter of whether or not Ohio State wants to push for the flip, or are these recruits really stuck to their decisions?
Well, I think for Ohio State, it's getting these guys around their program and seeing how they fit in and getting to know these guys better, see them in person, see their frames, and then project them in their program. But these are guys that they obviously like on film. They've built good relationships with them to this date. They're excited to get them on campus and see how things continue this weekend.
All right. Now, we know Ohio State is also making a push to 2027's number one recruiting class. Who of interest is on campus this weekend?
Well, quite a few, but let's just talk about a couple. Brock Williams, he's the number 2 tight end in the country. They're battling Georgia and Texas for him. Ohio State at the forefront of that recruitment for the Illinois native. And then Sam Spiegelman and I predicted the number 8 safety in the country out of the Lone Star State, Eli Johnson, to Ohio State ahead of his visit. So Ohio State had him on campus in the spring, trending very well going into his return trip to Columbus this weekend.
We're talking Indiana recruiting because this weekend is setting up to be the biggest recruiting weekend in Hoosier history. The number 2 ranked Indiana Hoosiers welcome Wisconsin to Bloomington, and they are packing the stadium with fans. Steve, and also there's going to be a ton of recruits. Who are you expecting to visit this weekend?
Well, talking to some Indiana staffers this week, they are talking to their ticket office, asking for more and more tickets. This is lining up to be the biggest recruiting weekend in Indiana history, at least in my time covering recruiting in over 20 years. They want to come see the show. They got the number 1 scoring offense in the country, Josh, the number 2 scoring defense in America. This is a complete football team steamrolling everybody, and they want to leave no doubt against the Badgers on Saturday, against some of the nation's best. Safety is a need for Indiana as they close out this class. A prospect that they're excited about, former UCLA commit Torrey Davis from Boulder Fairview. He impacts the game in all 3 facets on the prep level. He's taking an official visit this weekend. He's been building a relationship with Ola Adams. Talked to him about Indiana. He's excited about getting on campus, the standard of play there, all catching his eye. Indiana's going to have a bunch of their commits back on campus around Torrey Davis, so he'll get a chance to see how he fits in with these guys. He would be another excellent addition to a class full of future difference makers for the Hoosiers as they compete for college football playoffs for years to come.
All right. So we're going to see wide receiver Manshawn Sales on campus this weekend. One of the elite prospects at his position in the entire 2027 class. He kind of represents to me where Indiana is in recruiting. One, just the fact that he's in the conversation making multiple visits shows that recruits are starting to buy in, but Sales is from the state of Indiana. Do you see this not as a must-win recruitment, but, I mean, if Indiana's really rolling and they get it going on the recruiting trail, shouldn't they be able to land an in-state prospect like a Manshawn Sales? Football fans, whether you're cheering on South Carolina Gamecocks or the Texas A&M Aggies on Saturday, November 15th, make sure that you drop by the Whataburger food truck during your tailgate. Get ready to bring home the W early with a hot, fresh Whataburger in hand. And no matter who comes out on top, when you take your team to Whataburger, you know you'll feel like a winner with food made fresh and hot every time, 24/7. We'll see you at the game, and we'll see you at Whataburger.
Well, Manshawn Sales, you're recruiting against Alabama, Ohio State, Notre Dame, other terrific schools that have great things that they can boast and showcase on the trail as well. And Indiana is winning at a high clip and competing at a high level and going on the road and winning at Oregon, getting guys that are right for them. Recruiting is not about who you don't get. It's about who you get. But one thing about Monshun Sales in Indiana is that he is locked in on this season. This will be his second game visit this weekend after attending a game in September. I talked to him after Indiana beat Oregon on the road. He said it shows them that they can play on that stage. They can win those games. That's important to him in his process. You saw the game-winning catch last week by Omar Cooper in the back of the end zone in Happy Valley, same high school as Monshun Sales. So he's got great familiarity with players on the team up at IU. Sees a program competing in all the games that he wants to play in on the next level. But he's going through his process. Indiana is a program that's going to remain in the forefront of this recruitment for Monshun Sales, but it's going to be a battle. But for Indiana, I don't think they change the way that they go about recruiting moving forward. They're going to continue to look for the guys that fit their culture, fit their scheme, a lot of guys with developmental upside. This type of season may allow them to win 2 or 3 of those recruiting battles for those caliber of guys that they didn't maybe win in the last cycle. And that adds up to 8 to 12 players over the course of 4 years of recruiting. It's also going to really impact them in the transfer portal. You see how quickly transfer portal guys are able to make an impact for Indiana, obviously at the quarterback position, but at other positions. Indiana is going to be a major factor in the transfer portal to fill the needs that they may have coming out of the season. But this is the type of weekend where they can really get ahead in 2027. Added a couple more in-state visitors for this weekend this morning. Brandon Sharp from Brownsburg High, a dynamic receiver. Mason Oglesby, a tight end from New Palestine. It's his 3rd game on campus, Sharp's 2nd. They both attended the win over Illinois. Some other prominent names. I've never seen this many Rivals 300 recruits at Indiana at one time. And certainly some of those guys are committed. Henry Ollinger, Cameron McCaney, linebacker, defensive lineman. Those guys are committed to Indiana, returning. We talked about Sales coming back to campus. You have Ace Austin, one of the most coveted corners in the country from Cincinnati Anderson. He's visiting this weekend. His 4-star teammate, Antoine Higgins. Reynaldo Perez from Columbus, Ohio, is a top 100 player in the Rivals 300. Ohio State, USC, some of the schools they'll be battling him for. Mason McDermott from Noblesville, Indiana, 4-star offensive tackle that Indiana's hosted a couple times. And he also attended Iowa. He was in Iowa when Indiana went on the road and beat the Hawkeyes there. Hunter Mallinger from Wisconsin's a Rivals 300 offensive lineman they're on. Kyle Kuhn from Kansas City, another offensive lineman that's ranked in the Rivals 300. Tristan Hughes, a safety from Ohio, committed to Syracuse. So this visit list is loaded. Asher Giotto, top 10 player in 2028, coming to campus. Our number 2 edge, his teammate Xander Edwards, a prolific running back. So it's star-studded inside Memorial Stadium for Indiana, Wisconsin. It's the home finale, and if Kurt Signetti, Mike Shanahan, Coach Haynes and company have it their way, they'll win this game 66-0.
What an exciting time in Bloomington. Indiana fans, let us know, are you going to be in the stands? I want to hear from the fans in the stands how you feeling about this weekend's game, how you feeling about the season, and how you feeling about recruiting. Put it in the comment section below if you're a fan in the stands. Talking Texas A&M because the Aggies are trending for flips, and they got top targets coming to campus this weekend. Aggies currently with the number 6 class in 2026 and the number 1 class in 2027. So 3 weeks from signing day, looking to add some more. Obviously, it's going to be flips because everybody's committed. Safety, Braylon Womack committed to Auburn. He's on campus. Edge, KJ Ford committed to UF. And wide receiver, Jaden Warren committed to Houston. Steve, I mean, could they land all 3?
Well, they're in the mix, but KJ Ford is the one I would point to first from Duncanville. Early in his process, I thought Texas A&M was the team to beat. He's been on the radar for a long time. Tony Gerard-Edey leading the charge. The season that the Aggies are having, this is his 3rd time visiting this year. Now, he went to the Auburn game, returned for the Florida game, now coming back this weekend, did not visit Texas Tech last weekend. He does have a trip with USC on the docket, but talking to sources with knowledge of the recruitment, that one looks to be trending well for Texas A&M at this point for KJ Ford. Braylon Womack, He's been one of Texas A&M's top targets regardless of position this entire cycle. Mike Elko and company absolutely love him. Coach Ish, he is the safety that fits what they want to do on the back end of their defense. And this is a safety-centric defense. I mean, Mike Elko is a safety guy. And they've prioritized him. They've built a good relationship with him. This weekend's about making him feel more comfortable with College Station. He felt at home at Auburn, on the Plains, away from the football program. His sister plays softball there. He believed in Coach Durkin's defense and the trajectory of the Auburn program. Obviously, they're going through some wholesale changes now at Auburn. They're expecting to hire a great coach. In the meantime, Braylon Womack's out keeping some other schools warm, was at Mississippi State last weekend. But Texas A&M, this is not a new relationship. This is a program that's been in the picture for a long time. He knows how he fits with the defense. He's excited about that part. Can they make him feel at home in College Station this weekend? I think that's a big thing. And Jaden Warren committed to Houston. This is his second visit, an official visit. Shows you that Ohio State's at least, or that Texas A&M is at least trending up in the recruitment of Jaden Warren. Now, he's back at Houston recently, saying all the right things to Coach Fritz and that staff. They had Keyshawn Henderson, their five-star quarterback, spending time with them on his last visit to Houston. But he still continues to keep Texas A&M at the very least warm. And he is their top receiver target as we head down the stretch. And they put the finishing touches on this class that has a chance to finish in the top five.
All right. So we'll see who they can flip on campus this weekend, but there's one more not on campus that I want to talk to you about because the rumors are swirling as LSU does not have a coach, but they do have number one athlete Lamar Brown still on their commit list. I know the Aggies have been heavily involved with Brown prior to his commitment to LSU, but have they given up?
No, still some dialogue there. That's a young man that they've invested a lot of time and energy into his recruitment, got him to campus a bunch. And Texas A&M has always been considered that chief competition to LSU. Now it's going to be a tough flip for Lamar Brown. LSU expects to hire a frontline coach. He loves the Tigers program and Baton Rouge and Death Valley, regardless of who's in the corner office. So going to be a tough flip, but A&M still hanging in there. Ethan Booby Feaster, receiver committed to USC. That's another one that there's, dialogue continues with as well. So Texas A&M burning up the phone lines, still working on the trail, and they got a lot to sell with the way they're playing on the field. There's some people out there that think that they're the number one team in the country this year. They're at number 3 right now. They should win these next 2 games, South Carolina, and then they have the throwaway SEC game. And then they get Texas to end the season in a massive game, but they should have already locked up a college football playoff spot by that point, regardless of what happens in the Aggies-Longhorns game.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens there, but Lamar Brown, number one athlete, could be a big one. It just feels like Ohio State and Texas A&M right now are the big sharks on the trail. Like, if Ohio State or A&M is coming after one of your commitments, you better watch out. All right, let's flip our focus back to 2027, back to guys that are going to be on campus, and back to the Aggies surging towards, well, they have that number one class, but they want to finish number one overall, and there's some big names in that 27 class on campus this weekend, Steve.
The NFL season is heading down the stretch, and who doesn't love to see their favorite NFL team live and in person, especially when you go with a bunch of buddies or family. But tickets aren't easy to find, especially this time of year. If your team is chasing after a division championship like mine is here in Indianapolis. Well, thankfully, the Game Time app gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the hack for unlocking amazing ticket experiences, and it only takes a few simple clicks. The app is easy to use, and the Game Time guarantee means you can trust that you'll get 100% authentic tickets on time and at the best price. Plus, fees are always included, so what you see is what you pay. You can even get NFL games as low as $100. That's why I use the Game Time app. It's super simple, and it makes the experience of buying great seats a breeze. Also, one of the coolest features I've seen is the Game Time lowest price guarantee. It's where Game Time will credit you 100% of the difference to guarantee you're getting the lowest price if you find cheaper tickets elsewhere. So here's what we're going to do. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the promo code WILTFONG, WILTFONG, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's WILTFONG, WILTFONG, for $20 off. Game Time. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Yeah, Josh, to your point, Texas A&M and Ohio State, the way they're playing on the field, the cultures within their program, and the resources they have to recruit players, they're very formidable on the trail right now. Raylon Henry, the number 8 corner in the country, Texas A&M heavy favorite there. He's expected to commit this weekend. Love where the Aggies stand there. Join Sam Spiegelman in predicting in-state 4-star edge rusher Caden McCarty to Texas A&M. He's going to commit this winter. That's trending well for the Aggies. Today, Spiegelman and I predicted offensive tackle Caden Scott out of San Antonio to Texas A&M. So they're really starting to build the foundation of this class that's going to have a chance to finish number 1 nationally in 2027. We talked about Kennedy Brown in the Georgia segment. Maybe he pops up at A&M again. He's been at Texas A&M a bunch this season. Quay Ford's going to be on campus, another coveted in-state offensive lineman. Zane Rose, an edge rusher from Denton that they're trying to get back. So there's going to be some big-time 2027s on campus. But A&M is pushing towards building momentum for the college football playoff. They want to win the SEC. They want to be rolling going into those big games in December, in January. But one place where they're certainly rolling right now is the recruiting trail in 2026 and 2027, going into another exciting recruiting weekend inside Kyle Field.
Yeah. Aggie fans, talk to Steve and I about who, if you could have it your way, who would you want the Aggies to flip down the stretch? Let us know. Comment section below. All right, Steve, let's talk some Miami Hurricane recruiting as a Colorado Buffalo flip target headlines the visitor list at Miami this weekend. Tight end Gavin Mueller making his second game visit of the year, 6'6", 250-pound pass catcher. Where does Miami stand heading into this weekend?
Trending up. This is a guy that they comp to Elijah Arroyo, at second-round draft pick in April's draft. This is a guy that they view as a difference maker in their offense for years to come. Second time on the Miami campus. This time he's bringing his parents, so the whole family can get more comfortable with the idea of flipping to Miami. Colorado, great relationships. Coach Bartolini and that staff really believed in the trajectory of that program, but they're struggling in Boulder. Miami is a program that has emphasized the tight end. They have a track record there. This is the second visit. He's obviously interested. Now, North Carolina trying to become a player for Gavin Mueller down the stretch too. But Miami, this is a guy that they're on the gas for to add to a class that ranks in the top 10 nationally. And he is excited to get back down there with his parents and show them the Hurricanes so they can collectively talk about Miami moving forward.
Yep. And as always, it'll be a great weekend to be hanging out in South Florida as it is freezing cold everywhere else in the country. 4-star safety James Dunnigan. The Canes are hot, and James Dunnigan committed this week, one of many that have committed this week. But is Miami done in the secondary after landing a 4-star safety?
No, they'd love to add 4-star safety Blake Stewart out of the Peach State. Now, I haven't predicted the Miami right now, but Georgia Tech and Vanderbilt are two other programs pushing hard for Stewart down the stretch. But they would love to add Stewart and Dunnigan to this secondary to play the level of defense they want to play in the years down the road as they compete for national titles.
All right. Now, we know there's going to be more 2027s on campus as Miami looks to load that class up as well. Who headlines this group, Steve?
Well, it's actually a low-key weekend, Josh, at Miami this weekend. It's all about Gavin Mueller. They're pouring in to him this weekend. There will be some 2026 commits on campus. J.J. Dunnigan is one of them. Keyshawn Stansel, who recently flipped from Clemson, 4-star defensive lineman. It's his first time back at Miami since he took his official visit in the summer. So they're going to get Gavin around some of these commits, get him to vibe with those guys, get comfortable around his potential future teammates. But everything about this Miami recruiting weekend, we've seen some extravaganzas, some bonanzas, 5-star here, 5-star there, Michael Irvin over there. This weekend is about Gavin Mueller and getting him into the fold for Miami.
All right, well, we'll be talking Miami recruiting heading into the week. I know he's set, but you never know with these Miami games who is actually going to show up. So during our recruit reaction show, if there's any surprise visitors to the Canes game, we will be sure to cover it. Miami fans, talk to Steve and I. Recruiting is going really well. There's only 3 weeks left. Who do you want to see the Canes add before signing day? Let us know. Comment section below.